Pre-fader listen. So on all your channels on analog, it'll say PFL. So that's, you hit that and it solos it in your headphones. So it's a pre-fader listen, so it doesn't matter what the fader's at, you can hear what it is because it's pulling before the fader. Most of your groups will have an AFL, or after fader listen. So that when you adjust on the fader, you'll hear that adjustment in there. A lot of digital consoles, they just put it together and they call it PAFL, P-A-F-L. And that's a pre or after fader listen. So it depends if it's a channel, it'll be pre-fader. If it's a group or an aux, it'll be an after fader listen. And that just means that the fader will adjust the volume in your headphones as well. A lot of consoles, if you hit the solo button on the channel, that'll send the channel info up to the meter. So a lot of channels will have their own little meter on it. On the SQ, I hate it. It's a little one light that changes color depending on how strong the signal is. If you hit the solo button on it, it'll actually take over the main meter with a lot of little increments in it. And then you can use that to set your gain. A lot of analog consoles don't actually have a meter for each channel. This one does. But that if you have an analog console, you hit solo, it takes over the main meter. There'll usually be a PFL light that'll light up to let you know that it's soloing something. And that's how you would set the gain for the channel. Solo it, adjust your gain, and you'd use the meter. Signal meter, so that's what I was just talking about for the meter. Often the peak light will kick in before it's actually peaking. It's more of a warning. And then, when it is peaking, it'll be lit up as well. But if you see that red light, it doesn't automatically mean that you're clipping. It just means you're very, very close. So just be careful. Clipping on analog is actually called, not clipping, it's distortion. So it sometimes is useful, even on vocals. It can add some little bit of crunch or whatever. But on digital consoles, it's bad. It's just that sound. You don't want it. Fader, use it for controlling the volume that you're setting out. The numbers next to it is representing the amount of boost or cut that is being applied to that signal. So we had that line level signal coming in since we set our gain. And remember I said it was negative infinity and then it goes up to 0 and then it'll go +5, +10. If you put that fader at 0, you're just letting that line level signal go right through. It's not really doing anything. When you pull it down to -5, you're cutting the signal by 5 dB. That's what the numbers on there are telling you. The distance between the numbers near 0 are larger than the ones at the bottom. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. You get better fader resolution up near the top because the spacing between -10 and 10 is usually wider than it is at the bottom. The bottom between 40 and 30 will be like this. Between -10 and 0 is going to be like this. So that gives you more positions to choose from so you can make smaller changes. Groups. I was just talking about using that, but just group channels together. It makes it easier. You have one fader. So all of our drums, we have 8 drum mics. I'll set those volumes individually, and then I'll send them to a group. And then from there, I can control the whole thing with one fader. And then if I need to, I can go in and adjust a single channel if I need to. But if it's an actual group, you can even do effects on that. So I can go through and put compression and EQ on each individual drum mic, but then the audio is actually being sent from there to the group, and then the group can also get its own compression and own EQ if you want for the whole kit. And then it goes to your mains. I don't know if I cover, I don't have DCAs in here or VCAs. So a DCA or VCA does the same thing that a group does, it just doesn't actually move audio. It's a remote control for multiple faders. So with a group, like I said, you can do group compression. You take all those channels and then you add a little bit of compression to the whole thing. That can help make it sound like one instrument. But the DCA, as I turn that up and down, all it's doing is applying a 5 dB cut to all of the channels. So it equally turns them all down or all up at the same time, but it's not actually passing audio. The audio isn't being routed from that through the DCA to the mains, it's just going from the channels to the mains. You just have a remote control for all the faders in the middle. So that's the difference between a group and a DCA. The end result could be very similar because you have a single channel control, but one is moving audio, one is just a remote control.